the government really afford to pay teachers, or is the country's wage bill too high? Opposition leader Raila Odinga says President Uhuru Kenyatta in his State of the Nation address on Sunday gave erroneous figures to justify why the government cannot pay the teachers. Raila insists that the government can afford to pay teachers. So who exactly has the right figures?
4 weeks into the teacher strike, and teachers have vowed not to go back to class until the government effects their 50 to 60% pay rise ordered by the courts. The government has remained adamant that it cannot afford to pay and will not pay teachers. The opposition, on the other hand, insists that the government can pay and should pay teachers.
Our wage bill would therefore rise from 52% to 61%.
We have the money to believe protecting corruption and wastage.
On Sunday night, during a State of the Nation address, President Uhuru Kenyatta laid out figures to illustrate why the government cannot afford to pay teachers. On Wednesday afternoon, during the Uhuru Park rally in support of teachers, opposition leader Raila Odinga too put forward figures justifying why teachers should earn some extra cash.
Our public wage bill accounts for 52% of revenue.
Our public wage bill is only 32% of the revenue.
So how much of the just over 1.1 trillion shillings collected in revenue last year went to paying wages?
Kenya shillings 568 billion went to pay our wages.
A total of 370 billion.
Does the wage bill conform to the global average for middle-income countries?
The public wage bill accounts for more than 10% of our gross domestic product, well above the middle-income country average.
Where did President Uhuru get 568 billion wage bill that he gave in his statement?
The government says it has weighed various options in the search for money for teachers, and none of them are tenable. The opposition says the government has not explored all the options.
We would have had to raise VAT from the current 16% to 22%, or alternatively, borrow money or suspend critical development programs and essential services.
This year, national government's development budget is for infrastructure is only 350 billion. According to the World Bank, not Raila. Because of the World Bank assessment, half of this money, that's 125 billion, will go to corruption and waste. We have the money.
Uhuru Kenyatta had his figures figured out, but so does Raila Odinga.
In this financial year, Kenya shillings 174 billion was set aside to pay teachers, up from Kenya shillings 139 billion the previous year. If the award were paid, we would have had to find an additional Kenya shillings 118 billion to meet the salary and pension obligations of the award.
Published budget for the government wage bill for the current financial year is 329 billion out of our current budget of PSH 987 billion and a total budget of 1.8 trillion. This works out at 33% of recurrent and 17.5% the total budget and 26% of the revenue.
So who has their figures right, or who is telling the truth? It is now down to a game of numbers between the government and the opposition, as Uhuru Kenyatta's administration deals with what has proved a headache for successive governments. Rita Tinina, KTN News.